Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Last week of February, we got lots to talk about. Obviously, plenty with basketball we'll get to with Robin here later in the show, but I started out with football. As this over the next few weeks, we're going to hear from several different members of the Nebraska football program. And on Wednesday, we got to hear from associate head coach Phil Snow, edge coach Phil Simpson, and wide receivers coach Dykeel Shorts in a media session. I want to start our opening headlines off with Phil Snow because I do think we had already talked to Shorts and Simpson on the bowl trip, guys, but I do think Snow is a very interesting character because he's known Matt Rule really since the beginning of his coaching time, and that was at UCLA when he shared a very interesting story about how Matt Rule didn't know anybody at UCLA. But was very aggressive to get on that coaching staff. And it took Bob Toledo calling Joe Paterno. And there we go. Matt Rule's coaching career is off and running.
Yeah. They've known each other for a long time. Thanks to Nebraska, first of all, for doing this. I mean, giving us a chance to not really meet these guys, but at least interact with them in a Q&A.
Put some meat on the bone.
Yeah. I mean, you got your first look at Phil Snow today. I mean, it was amazing. Mm-hmm. There he was.
I wasn't even sure what he looked like.
I wasn't either.
I mean, outside of the graphic when Nebraska announced him.
69-year-old Phil Snow now appears in the podium, and he answered some pretty critical questions. I thought, now this is just me, what I led the story with, and it's always a judgment call on those things, but I thought he was pretty interesting. I hate the word interesting. I thought he emphasized that it's John Butler's defense.
Oh, yeah. He made that clear.
Yeah. He said, I will be involved in the game plan. It's a collaborative thing, right? We all work together, but it'll be Coach Butler's defense, and we're all working for him in that room. He's been a defensive coordinator at multiple major college stops. Snow, not Butler, Snow. So I always kind of wonder, how's that going to work? I mean, but it's Butler's defense. If I could sit down with Snow, what I'd say to him is, are you kind of like the co-coordinator, or are you really an associate head coach? Maybe those titles.
He said special teams though too, right, Robin?
Yeah, he's got to work special.
He was involved in hiring Mike Eckler. Like he was in on those interviews and talked about how good of an impression Mike Eckler made during that interview. So I think you got a sense of what Matt Rule was talking about when he talked about Snow being a big picture guy, where yes, he's going to be involved in the defense. He said he'll be involved in the during the week game planning come the season, but he's also going to be an on-field coach. He said, I wanted to be a coach. That's who I am. That's what I made my career off of. So he will be involved in practice, but he won't just be with one position group. He'll be with the D-line and go to the linebackers. So he's going to be all around the board. So that's where I think that big picture kind of title for him, that's where it comes into play, where, he's going to have across the board, assistance in the defense, but then also it goes into special teams and helping Matt Rule make critical decisions at every step.
Guys, I thought it was also interesting. A lot of people wanted to kind of what do you want to really work on, or what did you see from last year's defense that needs improved? And he kind of didn't fall for that February landmine. He said, hey, they were top 20 in a lot of categories. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of respect for Tony White. In fact, I think him and Matt Rule and Snow all crossed paths at UCLA. So that the relationship goes all the way back to that time. So he was very respectful, obviously, rightfully so, and didn't act like this defense needs a full repair, because it was a very good defense at times last year.
He did say we got to get better on third down.
Mm-hmm. And Matt Rule has hinted that the third down package was not extensive enough against the level of teams they had faced in the Big Ten.
Hey, he was pretty illuminating that way. He said, we're going to employ all the stuff that Tony did on first and second down, and we're going to hope to advance the third down package so it's a little bit more like the National Football League. In fact, he essentially said that Butler's NFL background serves him well here. He said it's a little bit more sophisticated in the National Football League than college on third down schematically. and I think John will bring some really good things to the table. We'll attack pass protections with different types of coverages that we can play on third down that Tony didn't do. There's got to be some wrinkles on third down.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat with you guys every game. Sean in particular in this conversation, it drove him nuts when they couldn't get off the field.
Mm-hmm.
On like 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s.
Sean would get,
And guys would just be like wide
Sean
open
get
at the
angry.
sticks. Yeah, no, I know exactly what he's talking
Let's
about.
drop 8 and somehow somebody would still be wide open. I mean,
yeah.
And beyond third down too, he pointed to red zone. So I think those, like, as far as like, what his influence on the defense could be, it's coming up with ideas and different schemes and wrinkles to make them better on third down and make them better in the red zone. Because I think those two areas really hurt him last year.
So how many new coaches total on this staff? 3 on defense.
oh gosh. Well, there's really like 13 total coaches now that you label as contract guys, 6 on offense, 6 on defense. Then Phil Snow's kind of the wild card as the 13th. But Shorts and Snow and Addison Williams. I mean, Braden. Yeah, there's new guys across the board. I mean,
And wasn't it? I thought it was fascinating what he said about Rule yesterday or day before had a 7-hour meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I've been wondering about that in recent weeks. Like, how does you got to pull all these guys together? I mean, you got to somehow pull them all together, have the same messages. Rule 7-hour meeting.
I think there were a lot of bathroom breaks in that meeting. Probably not.
That's a good thing, though, about the way there's not a lot of new faces, but there's also a lot of familiarity. I mean, obviously with Snow, like there's no better right-hand man for Matt Rule out there. And so just having 2 voices delivering the same message in top leadership positions is going to be critical. John Butler's been here for a year. Right. So, I mean, like he's not coming in from scratch. Phil Simpson has been here. So he's not coming in from scratch. Dvorak. So, I mean, while there are a lot of new pieces on this staff, there also is a pretty good head start and continuity for as much staff turnover as we've seen.
There's some. I mean, Phil Snow has never worked with Butler.
Right.
So that's I mean, Matt's got a big job.
He's never worked with Mike Eckler either.
Never worked with Eckler.
But what did he use? The word about Mike Eckler, he said it was like one of their most impressive hires of the offseason.
Home run hire. Brings an old school approach that I think is in line with what Matt Rule and Phil Snow were looking for.
Eckler's pretty old school.
He also was quick to point out that he felt like Matt Rule got a raw deal in Carolina.
Yes.
That they didn't have they had less than 2 years to kind of get it figured out. And if you study the Matt Rule history, you need 3 or 4 to really know what he can do with your program. And Carolina did not allow that to happen.
Well, part of that was the COVID year. So he said we didn't even meet with the players for 6 or 7 months when we got there. So it was a jacked up time for everybody. It was a jacked up time for you guys. It was a jacked up time for me. Imagine running an operation with 90 guys
with Zoom meetings and.
Yep.
I'm sure that was.
You love Zoom meetings, don't you, Sip?
No, I didn't. I hated that time when we had those masks. Like, next question, please. And you have to take down.
You have to wear the mask on the Zoom meeting. Okay. All right. 2025 here. When we come back, we'll pick up the discussion with Dyke Heel Shorts and Phil Simpson as they also shared a lot of interesting news and notes on Wednesday. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Back here on the Husker Online Show, Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Husker Online Show brought to you by one of our newest sponsors, Ridge. And if you're not familiar, and Robin can attest to this, I at one point probably had the world's most out of control sized wallet.
It was like a phone book in your pocket.
And I mean, literally probably was going to cause me major back issues, like sitting on this brick.
Is it ridiculous?
Well, Ridge Wallet has changed it up. Check this out. This is my new wallet here. It's all it is. I have,
look at that. It's like a deck of cards.
10 credit cards stacked. It opens very easily.
Just put your credit card
especially
number
when he's in a steakhouse, it opens really easily.
Very easily. Golden Steer Steakhouse, Las Vegas, coming up. But if you never tried it, it is get a great gift for your husband, your friend, family member, or yourself. You can get up to 40% off. Just visit ridge.com/Husker. That's ridge.com/Husker. And yeah, Robin, maybe get one for your Christmas stocking. I'll get a New York Giants one for you.
No, we'll see.
What do you mean?
They got to earn my trust.
What
back.
team would you get if you had to get a Ridge wallet with a team on it? What would be your team, Sip?
Raiders, right? Aren't you a Raiders guy?
I'd like to. I mean, it'd just be sort of. It'd be dishonest to claim. I don't really follow.
No, look, she pulled up the Raiders. Look at the Ridge, and they have like accessories you can add on to it. It's pretty cool.
What team would it be?
Well, mine would be the Dodgers.
Yeah,
over the Chiefs even.
Ooh.
Like I
don't really have a team, unfortunately.
That's unfortunate.
It is. Sean has teams, multiple.
Watch NBA every week, but ridge.com/Husker. Let's get into the other coaches because Dykeel Shorts, Phil Simpson. We talked to both these guys at Fordham for a brief moment, so it's not the first time we've heard from them. That was on the Pinstripe Bowl trip. But I thought Shorts' comments, Robin, were very interesting, just about the lack of production they return. There's a lot of talent, a lot of potential, but you take away Dane Key and Ja'Cory Barney to an extent, there really is not a lot of big-time production, but I would say Isaiah Hunter.
Isaiah Hunter had 40 catches.
I mean, he led Cal in receiving.
Catches, yeah.
I mean, I think he made it clear that he really likes the room and the potential of it, but they just need a lot of young guys to step up and emerge. And that goes beyond their play on the practice field. I thought what was also telling, he said that he's still trying to figure out the leadership because they don't have a vocal leader in that room. Dane Key's probably the best lead by example guy, but he's not a strong voice. It's going to go out there and command the young guys and get him into shape. And so that's kind of going to be one of the big tasks of this offseason is figuring out your leadership kind of totem pole there. Because you need guys that aren't just going out there and doing their own thing. With as many young players as they need to step up, somebody's got to set the tone and bring those other guys along. And that can be Key. It could be Barney. I mean, the fact that he's already kind of established himself as one of the faces of the offense, even though he's a young guy, I think they have players that are capable of doing that, but it just hasn't happened yet. And that's got to be a critical piece of the offseason.
What do you say about Hardly Gilmore?
Well, I asked that question to him because he got Hardly Gilmore when he was 16 years old a year ago. Hardly Gilmore just turned 18.
Okay.
So think about that. He's going into his second year of college football.
That's crazy.
And he just hit 18.
Young.
Where, I mean, you kind of put this in perspective. Tyson Terry, who just won, is 19 already, and he'll be 20, by next season.
Tyson Terry's 19 years old.
So Cade Ziola and Tyson Terry, the two Husker recruits for football and wrestling, they did like 8th grade twice during the COVID era, so it didn't affect their high school wrestling careers.
Interesting.
So they were like 19-year-old seniors this year.
If I say interesting one more time, find me $20. Okay.
100.
Yeah. I could say 100, 100 hundo, but interesting's got to go. Okay. $20
to piggyback off what he said.
Yeah. Interesting. Hardly. Do they have enough depth in that room?
I mean,
on paper.
Look,
I think so.
You have Ja'Cory Barney. You have
Dane Key, Isaiah Hunter,
Bonner, Demetrius Bell's coming back.
Okay, that helps.
Got
Cortez
Hunter,
Mills,
Gilmore, Quinn Clark, Keelan Smith.
Oh yeah, you got enough.
And then the young guys like Cortez Mills, Mosey.
Yeah, Mosey's here. Cortez Mills is here. Jackson Carpenter's here. So 3 of the 4 true freshmen are here. And then Jeremiah Jones, who I'm as intrigued with. He's the number 1 player in Kentucky.
Yep. But what Short says is right. There's not a lot of proven production, which is why Key, and I am putting Hunter in that category. Hunter had 40 catches at Cal.
He's one of the only guys that's done it.
Right.
There's 3 guys, maybe Bonner too, that have actually played at this level.
Can't you just pencil in Key and Isaiah Hunter as starters?
With Barney and Mills in the top 4. That's probably your top 4. And then Gilmore. That's your 5th. That's your 5 right there. And then if you play 6, like you're probably looking at either Janiron Bonner, Quinn Clark, maybe Keelan Smith, maybe Mosey. I mean, Mosey, as you heard at St. Michael's, he could play some running back too.
Right. He played running back in high school. I watched that film of him at running back. He's a good running back. He's a great catch after the run guy, obviously, because he played running back. Now, I also heard Shorts. Now, so listeners understand, Phil Snow spoke first. So I peeled away and kind of tried to start writing, but I wanted to go get Phil Snow, didn't get him. Then I was listening to these other guys, trying to listen to them. Shorts talked about Dylan quite extensively, didn't he?
It was
High
his
praise.
last answer. Yeah. And basically just initial impressions of the guy that's going to be throwing his receivers the ball. And he had an anecdote of when he showed up for just workouts, and he got there at 6 a.m. thinking that he was going to be one of the first guys in. And he gets there, and Dylan Raiola is already in there midway through a boxing workout. At 6 a.m. And so, like, that, I think, caught his attention. It's like, well, this may be a young guy who has this kind of celebrity about him, but he works. And I think that's the separator with Dylan. Is like you see all the stuff in social media and all the appearance at basketball games and all that stuff. Like, he's doing all that, but he's also grinding as hard as anybody else on the team. And that comment from Shorts, I think, was telling that, what you don't see after all the social media stuff is just what Dylan Raiola is doing to make himself better.
And again, a year ago, Dylan really couldn't do this. Like, he was new. He was a freshman, early enrollee, hadn't won the job yet. So he couldn't really kind of take on this type of role yet because he had to win it. And Matt Rule wanted to make sure that he earned it, won the job. But now a year later, he's really grasped that role well.
Why is he doing boxing drills?
Just a cardio workout, different type of cardio.
It's a good workout.
Kickboxing.
Yeah. Was it kickboxing or
I'm
conventional?
Sure, like a lot of boot camp places do like kickboxing classes and kicks and punch. I mean,
I wonder what he was doing, kickboxing or conventional.
Pretty sure he just said boxing. But
I'll tell you what, his dad's not going to let him become a celebrity, quote unquote.
Yeah, you can do all that stuff. That's fine as long as you're putting in the work behind the scenes. And
yeah, you know what I mean.
Sounds like he is.
But Dylan, the celebrity mindset won't play around Dominic. Dylan's got to work. I never ever worry about Dylan's work ethic.
He was at the basketball game again in those kind of courtside seats Monday night, and it was Emmett with him. And who else?
Emmett's always with him.
Those are the only two I saw.
Yeah, they're doing TikToks now together.
Yeah,
little dance videos.
Yeah, they're kind of good dancers.
I think if Sipple and I just started doing like dance TikToks.
No, don't think about it.
I don't know why you haven't yet. Why that's not already a thing.
Don't get that. Don't put that out.
Don't put it out there. Okay.
Yeah.
Briefly, Phil Simpson too, making his return back to Nebraska. And, when he was here the first time, we never interviewed him because he was in a completely different role, like a behind the scenes role. Now he's in a much more prominent role. He's got the tough job ahead of him to find production, or Robin, in terms of the lack of sacks that this defense returns.
Yeah. And that was one of the things he said. He said, we're going to, have all these different, or try to have a commonality of what we did defensively. But one thing that we're going to do, or our identity is going to be about getting after the quarterback. So that is clearly a priority. And a big part of that is Deshaun McCullough, who is working in Simpson's room right now. He's a versatile guy that will probably working off the edge a lot, but now he said the most critical thing for McCullough right now is just the reps and seeing what he can do, what he can't do, where he thrives, and the different things that he's capable of taking on, because they want to use him in a lot of different ways. And I think right now it's just seeing how wide that net can be for what he can handle, because versatility, that's the name of his game right now.
They got some guys, don't they? Because McGahee can really play.
Yeah, he's a Maverick Newton in that room too.
Shavers can really play. They have some explosive athletes on that side of the ball. I wish they had a few more of them, but
I've heard good things on Marquise Watson Trent. He's got the production to back that up, but you wonder, is he a day one starter or is he a rotation guy? Because they have a tough decision there with some of these other linebackers.
Marquise Watson Trent made a big impression at Sean's what do you call it, Sean?
The St. Michael's Husker night.
Yeah. When he said he enjoyed mat drills. He enjoys them. He said they're fun.
I mean, he brought his fiance. He's an older guy.
Yeah, and you can tell. I mean, if you question you can't question how much he loves football when he's up there smiling and talking about how much he likes mat drills. He's a dude. I mean, very interesting.
All right, when we come back,
I said it. That's $20.
Interesting.
New word. Need a new word.
The award-winning writer can't come up with a new word.
No vocabulary.
We'll add it to the Media Day Vegas fund.
Okay.
Every time, $20 in the fund.
Yeah.
When we come back, we will talk NFL Combine. 4 Huskers will be in Indy. And we'll also I also want to hit on, guys, more spring games being canceled. We're seeing that out there as well, as Alabama's the latest to join that crew this week. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Back here on the Husker Online Show, Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. This segment of the show brought to you by Factor. Not familiar with Factor. They make it easier for you to eat healthy, especially when you're trying to get stuff for lunches for the week or dinners at night. And you're by yourself. You want options. You want healthy food. You want good food. Every week, they have 40 different options across 8 dietary preferences, including keto, as Stephen M. Sipple was very fascinated on Monday about keto.
I think I called it a keto.
He called it a keto.
Like the dog.
Keto is what the proper,
But they send it all to your house, freshly made, never frozen, individual meals. So like I had a box sent to me, 7 meals, lunches, dinners. You heat them up 2.5 minutes or whatever the time is, and you got your food for the week. And we are going to give you 50% off your first box plus free shipping from Husker Online. All you need to do is go to factormeals.com/factor podcast. That's factormeals.com/factor podcast to learn more about it. Check them out today. Give them a try. Thanks again to Factor for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. But a couple things I want to hit on here.
Okay.
NFL Combine is this weekend, and Robin, I consider you the NFL expert of the show.
What?
Really?
Yeah.
Are you, how, in your opinion, does the
Where the hell did that
Combine
come from?
have the same steam to you as it once did? Or, I mean, there was a time where I felt like you had to watch the Combine. But to me, it just doesn't, I don't know. Like,
Well, a lot of the top prospects aren't even participating in the workouts. Like they're there for the medical exam and the team interviews, which in reality, when you get to a certain point, if you're like a bona fide first round pick, like, do you need to run? Like, are you trying to improve your stock if you're already regarded as, a top 5 pick? Probably not. And so like the real value is, the letting teams know the person they're getting and the extent of any lingering injuries you might have. So in that sense, like a lot of times the best players or the best prospects aren't even doing the on-field workouts that you're tuning into NFL Network to watch. But, for Nebraska's guys, I think it's significant. Like this is their opportunity.
Ty Robinson,
Fedoni,
Tommy Hill, all those guys, like this is where, I mean, some of those guys had the all-star weeks, like the Senior Bowl and whatnot, to kind of get on the radar, but this is where you cement yourself. This is where you sell yourself as a draftable prospect to teams. And again, it's the on-field stuff's a big part of it. But when Ty Robinson's sitting down one-on-one, facing all these weird questions from scouts or NFL GMs or whatever it may be, that's where I think the separator is. Because we all know how good of players those guys are, but like with a guy like Ty, his character, I think, is what really separates himself, and his knowledge of the game and his leadership and just the command that he has. That could be the difference between being a day 3 pick or even a day 2 pick.
You know what else could be the difference? I'd say this another separator for Ty would be the agility drills. Not the
size.
40. Now the 40 obviously can be important, but I think, and coaches will tell you that agility drills are huge. When you see that big man whipping through cones, that dude, it'll make an impression.
All right, I got 2 over-unders for you. Thomas Fedoni, over under 4.6540.
Sean.
And Michael Severe will probably text us.
I'm going to say
right after this.
Under.
Okay.
Because that's all these guys have been working on.
So he might, could he get in the 4.5s?
Potentially. But you said 4.65?
Yeah.
I'm going to go under.
Then Tommy Hill, will he go under 4.5?
Yes.
What will his weight be? Because at the Senior Bowl, he weighed 210.
It's big. That's a big corner.
It's a husky corner.
I don't know what to tell you. I didn't answer those questions.
Well, how will he run as well with his foot?
Yeah, good point.
I mean,
I'm not as confident about that one.
Will he run? I mean, so like Tommy Hill, that one gets me. I'm not worried about Ty Robinson's running, and because when's Ty Robinson?
It's the agility, the cone drills.
Yeah, Nayor will be one of those guys that will probably test really well.
Oh yeah,
and you're going to be like, wow. And then,
yeah. I mean, well, here's the thing, Sean.
Story of his career.
Here's the thing, Sean. There'll be some coaches and GMs and personnel types that'll be like, wow. They will. I've always said about coaches, and I mean, I'm not a coach. I've never coached, but I know that coaches get enamored with guys that look like that. Guys that look like Nayor. You guys saw him walk into press conferences. He's a wow body. Like he's like, that's what it should look like. Didn't play like that all the time.
Seems like owners and GMs probably get caught up in that a little bit more. If coaches are putting on the tape, maybe it tells a different story.
Yeah.
All right. Another topic I want to hit on. No spring game now at Alabama. So the trend that Nebraska kind of came out with first, Ohio State's followed that trend. USC has followed that trend. Alabama is in that trend. Ole Miss already did that last year.
Don't you think some of these schools would have done it anyway?
Was Oklahoma another one that wasn't going to do one? But Penn State is one of the big ones that still plans to do a traditional game. And I would imagine Georgia will too.
Because why do you say that?
Because Kirby Smart's old school.
I think, yeah, I don't, maybe Nebraska set a trend, or maybe those schools would have done it anyway.
Like right? Carson Beck last year in the spring game, I think threw over 40 passes.
Which is crazy.
Well, Kirby has the Bloody Tuesdays still. Like, I mean, they're notorious for all hitting on Tuesdays. I think even during the season, it's all go. Like it's full pad. We're going the whole time. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he did
in the afternoons too. Like Kirby is not a morning guy for practice because he's like, if we're a good team, this is back when they were on CBS. He goes, we're playing at 2:30 or 3:30 on CBS in the hot sun. So that's when we practice.
It's working pretty well for Kirby.
Yeah, no, Kirby has an edge, but Alabama with the spring game thing, I think in general, everything after this year, there will be no more spring games.
OTAs. What does that mean to the common fan know what we're talking about when we say that OTAs? And what's spring going to look like? What's summer going to look like? Do people understand? I don't think they probably.
Organized team activity is what OTA, I believe, stands for.
It does.
Pulled that one out. I thought
you nailed it.
But you never say the full. You never say it that way. It's OTA, but yeah, you have mini camp, OTA, and look, they're paying these guys so much money, and they're not obligated to stay. So you worry about a lot of things. A guy getting hurt, a guy leaving your program that you've already started to pay.
You heard John Butler at your night at St. Michael's say, we have these mat drills, and you gotta just break them down. You gotta break guys down, and then the next day you gotta re-recruit them and say, hey, you're gonna stay, right? I mean, it gets that way. But this new calendar is interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
Sipple.
Boy, that Vegas fund is looking good.
And we just added a lobster tail, Robin.
Let's go.
The thing that's happening that people are going to have to adjust to is it's not the calendar that you grew up with, that I grew up with. The college football calendar is changing. Mm-hmm. There's not going to be a conventional spring ball. You're just conditioned. Okay, mid-March, Nebraska must be in spring, and the spring game must be around that April 15th area. Nope, that's going away. It's not going to be that way anymore.
Like what we're going to be covering. Remember those cold Marches and Aprils, and you'd be going out there?
Yeah, I do remember. They'd open up the practice, and you'd be standing out there freezing if you didn't dress appropriately. That's all going away. I was talking to one of the writers today, the Nebraska writers, and he was talking about, like, what are we going to be doing next year at this time? You know, there's going to be this huge gap. There'll be basketball, but the coverage is going to be, we're going to have to figure some stuff out.
I imagine they'll still do stuff like they did today and like they're doing this spring, which is like kind of the formal podium interviews where they run through the coaching staff.
Would Frost be doing that?
No, but
Rule gets it though. Like
Rule's different.
Like remember last summer we were interviewing like operational people.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you'll get into that. And so that's probably what is going to take place of your normal post-practice interviews during the spring is just kind of these formal state of the position group type press conferences where it's fine. I mean, I think you still gain information from that, but it's going to be different. And everybody, us, fans, teams, players, coaches, they're going to have to adjust.
In summary, you won't get to see much football with your eyes.
Yep.
No.
Like you'll go from Pinstripe Bowl to Arrowhead Stadium without seeing football.
Okay. And explain to people how much different that is. There were times over the years with certain coaches, Riley, Callahan,
Bo, we saw a little bit with Bo.
Yeah, we'd see. I can remember the Riley years. Well, first, let's start with Callahan. Bill Callahan let us see every spring football practice
for the first few years.
Yeah, for the first few years.
I think
I took to not going over there all the time
because it became work.
Yeah, because it's a huge commitment. That sounds horrible, but it's true. And then there was a summer where Riley let us see so much of August camp that I would tell guys, I've never been more familiar with the roster than I am now. I knew exactly the 2 deep, the 3 deep.
Mm-hmm.
You knew which guys were good, which guys weren't. You saw so much. It was now it's not now. Now Rule always hears this and gets on and says, "Sybil, there's Sybil bitching about no access again." I'm not bitching about it. It's just different. It's just different.
What I like when you're over there is the conversations you have with other people.
Yeah, I really likes that.
Like support people, coach, like you in high school coach, you see people.
Right.
And that's where guys like us that have been around a long time because we're old.
Yeah.
Like you see like people that, and that helps our job too. When you're at practice and you see, there's so-and-so I've seen.
Oh yeah. Like one of the refs, like one of the last times Rule had us open, he pulled me aside and said, "Look for this, this, and this." I'm like, "Oh, thank you."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the referees. I mean, so yeah, you do lose a lot.
And there's just something to be said for being around. I mean, even if it's just like you're up in the little rafters in the indoor facility watching practice, at least you're seeing the players. You know what they look like on the field, what the offense, what the Dylan throwing to Barney looks like. I mean, like going that long is going to be an adjustment, because at least just having that kind of familiarity with what you're writing about, what you're talking about, it's going to be hard to replicate that.
Yeah, think about 8 months.
Who was the guy at Michigan that infiltrated
Connor Stallions?
Yeah, you could try to go Connor Stallions and disguise yourself as somebody, like go Connor Stallions as like a cafeteria worker.
I'll dress up as Troy Dannon and just walk in.
Yeah, you don't have to dress up.
Troy, let's go.
All right. When we come back, Abby Barmore will join us on the mailbag. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Back here on the Husker Online Show, Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, Abby Barmore for the mailbag. This segment of the Husker Online Show brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes you just need somebody to talk to. Life is tough. You deal with a lot between work, family, all the different things that you deal with day to day. And the best way through that might be through therapy. And BetterHelp is there for you. First and foremost, they help you find a match. You fill out a survey, and they find a therapist that's going to work well with you. And the other great part about BetterHelp is you do it on your time. With BetterHelp, you figure out when you want to do it, you schedule it, and you do it on Zoom or FaceTime on your computer or your device. So you don't have to go in anywhere and do it. So they are there for you to make therapy enjoyable and easy, and find someone that can help you through a lot of the day-to-day things that you just want to talk to somebody about. Give them a try. Go to betterhelp.com/Husker. Again, that's betterhelp.com/Husker. And that will give you 10% off your first month. Again, that's betterhelp.com/Husker for 10% off. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, let's get into the mailbag, Abby. Where are we going first?
Which incoming football player are you looking forward to watching the most?
Oh, I mean, are we just going to do freshmen, or are we going to do transfers?
And incoming.
Freshmen or transfers?
Okay, that sizes it up. I mean,
you could do both. You could pick one of each.
I think Cortez Mills is the freshman that I'm really most excited to see.
Good job. Good
Fell in a
catch.
trap there.
Good catch.
Little jumbo, pulled it in,
Good
2
catch.
feet.
Yep.
And then I would say, I hate to do another receiver, but Dane Key. I mean, that's a key one.
Yeah. No pun intended.
Go ahead, Rob.
Okay. I'm going to avoid receiver just because we already hit 2 of them. I'm going to go with. Okay, I'm going to go on the offensive line, and I'm going to say Elijah Pritchett, just because he's playing left tackle and he needs to be really good. And, they brought him here for a reason. So offensive line, I mean, they have some big shoes to fill, and he is a massive piece in that. So I'm going to go with him. And then let's see, I'm going to go defense for my freshman, and I'm going to say, what about like one of those linebackers? Like who? You would
Christian
know this,
Jones. I mean,
yeah, like
Christian Jones,
Merritt Jones or Mooberry.
Merritt.
Well, Merritt's coming off shoulder, so you wonder where he'll be for this year, physically, if he's going to be back in time. I also wonder if there's a path for one of those freshman D linemen. It won't be Tyson Terry because he's having ACL knee surgery. Malcolm Simpson or Cade Pedshock, because I do think they're a little light right now on the D line, and one of those kids, and maybe they'll come up with a plan where they each play 4 games.
Yeah, good.
And they, you have a designated, or then if Tyson Terry was able to get back, maybe he could play the final 4. And I don't know. There's a lot of things they can do, but I would imagine they would like to redshirt those D linemen, but they might need one of them.
If we were going to go over there and watch some practice, my eyes would go to Rocco Spindler first.
Yeah,
that's where I'd go.
That's your guy.
1B.
Well, yeah, because here's why. Because he's a veteran. I think I just wonder to what extent he takes over that room.
Yeah, he's got that personality.
Yeah. And you can, a lot of times you can see that on the field. It's pretty evident. It becomes pretty evident. So Spindler would be the guy to watch on offense, McCullough on defense. McCullough's length.
Freshman.
No, Deshaun McCullough.
Do you have a freshman that you like?
Oh, do I have a freshman that I like?
We do a newcomer and freshman. McCullough, yes.
Yeah, I'm McCullough. I just want to say one thing on McCullough. When he walked into that St. Michael's night, I did not know that he had that kind of length. I mean, he looks like a basketball player.
And Sean, he's like 250, right?
Yeah.
240, 250.
240, 250.
Yeah, he looks like a guy you'd see playing for the Syracuse Orangemen basketball team.
Williams Noweri was like 280, wasn't he?
Williams Noweri was exactly what I thought. He looks like a bigger Randy Gregory. He kind of looks like Randy Gregory. He's got that kind of build, but just bigger.
How freaked out do you think those guys were when they saw 400 people in a room in February to hear them talk?
I thought it was more like 500.
400 or 500. Yeah.
It was packed. I was freaked out.
Thrown right into the fire, don't
you? I think they liked it, Sean. I thought they enjoyed it. Do I have a freshman? Now that you mentioned,
about one of those running backs.
Oh yeah, Jamarian Parker. Just read in Sean's Monday column that he reported looks pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Now that's big. I think they kind of need him at that position.
As you would say, running back.
Yeah.
Jamar.
Yeah, I'm very interested in Jamarian Parker.
All right.
St. Louis kid. I want that St. Louis. It'd be good if he's good because you need that St. Louis pipeline to start flowing here a little.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Next question.
Okay, next question. What game are you most looking forward to this next year, Nebraska football and volleyball?
I'm looking forward to the opener in Arrowhead just because of the experience. I mean, I love Kansas City. I love barbecue.
That.
Yeah. I love a Thursday night opener, and I love to see Nebraska fans flex. And the sight of 80,000 Nebraska fans potentially filling up the Arrowhead parking lot, because we don't get to see that normally. Like a Nebraska home game, usually the tailgating is spread everywhere. Well, Arrowhead is going to be one giant just village camp of tailgaters. I'm excited it's just going to be awesome.
I can tell you're excited.
My family's going with. We got to work and do show, but my family will come down with me. And I want my girl. I love that my girl's going to go to that game and see that opener in Arrowhead.
Yeah, I mean, mine would be the same answer, but I'll put that Michigan game, the Big Ten opener on September 20th, just because, like, if Nebraska does what it's supposed to do in non-con play, then that's going to be that next kind of litmus test of how far they've come. Because you're up against Michigan, who, they're going to have a lot to prove going into this coming season as well, and that could be a real kind of defining point for how quickly Nebraska can start. We talk about it all the time. Getting off to a kick start and building up that equity is such a critical component, especially with how difficult and road heavy the back end of Nebraska.
Will that be big noon, you think, the Michigan game? Or I don't know what the other September 20th games will be. But I have a hard time if Fox has a pick turning that game down.
That's ratings gold right there.
So I would have picked Michigan. That's fine. I'm third in the pecking order, and I am wildly intrigued by
almost got him.
Didn't get me though. Penn State. It's such a hard game.
We haven't been out there since 2017
on November 22nd.
I believe now. I don't know. I've never coached, But if I were the head coach, I'd have that game in the back of my mind all the time with a lot of the decisions I make.
If you're Matt Rule going back there.
Yeah, but I'm
storylines.
I have that game in the back of my mind when I'm training my guys. As a player, I have that game in the back of my mind when I'm training. November 22 in Happy Valley, that's rough duty. You have to get ready physically and mentally for that. November's a bear anyway. It's late in the season. That game if I were a coach, it'd be in the back of my mind all the time. Penn State.
By the way, for that trip, we're staying in a house. Are you excited about what?
In the front of Sean's mind is the steakhouse and the house that we're staying
because
in.
hotel, like a Fairfield Marriott in State College, is like $1,000 a night.
Sean couldn't wait for me to get done with the football talk to get.
All right. No.
But we're going to be staying at a house like that backs up to where Joe Paterno lived.
It's fun.
So we'll make the most.
Travel. He's incredible with travel.
It'll be a full-blown dudes trip. Like we're gonna be grilling steaks and
we'll go to the store,
Throwing
like
out.
a big grocery run, like where you just buy weight. You'll spend like $500 at the store.
We're gonna wake up Saturday morning. Sean's be cooking eggs.
Simple.
Morning, fellas. How do you like your eggs?
Oh, that will be great dialogue on the show for that week when we have the house in State College. Final question, Abby Barmore.
Okay. Well, can I answer the second part of the last question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Game that I'm looking forward to for volleyball. Obviously, the first game.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Abby.
geez,
Sorry,
don't forget about volleyball. Come on.
Sorry, Abby.
The first game, obviously, they're playing Pitt. That's going to be a huge game, right? We get a look at Danny Busboom Kelly and her group, but also Louisville and Pitt are huge rivals. So that will be fun. That her first game at Nebraska will be against Pitt. And of course, they have Olivia Babcock, and then they play Stanford at the second game. These are both in the AVCA First Serve Showcase, which they just announced. So it'll be fun. Two really tough teams to start out with.
No easing into anything.
Final question.
So there was a rumor that maybe during the spring game there could be a media flag football game.
Oh God.
So what position would you play?
I play wide receiver.
Yeah,
it's going to be 7-on-7, so it's not going to be like blocking.
Yeah, there's no fullbacks.
I'm 58. I'm not playing. I recuse myself.
All-time
from this
QB?
discussion.
I said on our
Lift my
team,
right. This is how far I can lift my arm.
we're going to have Adam Carricker and Damon Benning on our team.
Yeah, we can do that. Jay Foreman, get him on there too.
Carricker could play quarterback. He could.
Oh yeah,
Carricker. Well, remember, Carricker played quarterback in high school, Sean, if I'm not mistaken, right?
He could throw a football like 80 yards.
Right. He had a boot on one practice, and he did. He launched it. It was an athletic feat that I was glad I saw in person. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was like the ball was shot out of a cannon, and he had a boot on. He was hurt. And it was just after practice when we would go to practice, Matt Rule, and we would see a lot. And that day he hoisted a ball 80 yards.
What if we had this game and like we just took it like super serious and we were just like running over people?
It's like one of those 7-on-7 kids where you have all the gear and the towels and like 7 armbands and the big mouthpiece with like the sharp teeth.
Like I just put my head down. I'm just running. I'm running through.
Sean's stiff arming female riders.
The one way to get
Sean,
it shut
that's
down.
Amy Just. Okay, take it easy.
Abby's trying to block for him. He just shoves her in the back.
It would be. I don't know if we'd have enough good media to fill a team up.
I don't think
there would have to be waivers upon waivers. For
maybe
that.
like a media skills competition.
They might have to have
where
an
you
ambulance
throw
just
balls
ready
at
to go right
targets
there.
or-
The soft tissue injuries would just be ridiculous in that thing.
Yeah, I'll be in the press box.
No, they used to do the women's 101 deal, and
now?
Nebraska did like a clinic, like a football 101 for women.
Right. And what happened?
And so the women would be all fired up and excited, having fun, and they would run them through some drills. And this is 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And a woman got hit in the head with like a pad, but suffered like a head injury.
It was a situation.
To the point where it was a legal situation.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Right.
Yeah. And you'll like this. My dad's wife, Lori, she pulled her hamstring at that deal. Like they had this drill where you're catching a football and you dove on a bag.
Right.
Yeah.
And she pulled her hammy.
Right. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
But
we'd be dropping like flies if we
Yeah.
played a full football.
no,
game.
I'm a non-participant.
you're in coverage mode. You'll cover. That'll be the spring game.
I'm 58 years
Okay.
old. I mean, it's not for people like
I'm gonna
that.
put you at D coordinator. You're gonna be
Okay.
drawing up the blitzes.
I'll hold a clip.
Could you feel the live punt?
Yeah, I think so.
Like from like a legitimate college punter. Like,
Yeah.
So it's going that
Yeah.
high up. Okay.
I think so.
Nick Saban did that one year. He had media field live punts.
I'd need probably a couple tries because I haven't done it in 20 years.
Yeah,
You could
need.
pull a hammy doing that. You could going after a punt.
Yeah.
It's not right at you.
No.
Oh, and it comes down fast. And
Mhm.
I mean, it would hit some people in the face.
It's an insurance nightmare right there.
You just talked Troy Dannon out of this. It's not happening.
Broken nose.
I have to wear a helmet for sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Abby.
Of course.
When we come back, we'll talk Nebraska basketball, another tough loss Monday night. Now they have Minnesota this weekend. We'll get Robin's thoughts on that and the NCAA tournament. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Final segment of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Before we get into some basketball talk, Stephen M. Sipple, this segment brought to you by who?
We're going to sell some cars today. Larson Motors. Larson Motors. If you're looking for a new vehicle, go for a new experience at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. That's the key, Nebraska City. It's one of the Midwest's only dealerships with all the major brands in this one beautiful location. So finding your Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram never has been easier. Start your new experience today. How about it? LarsonMotorGroup.com. You can peruse a bunch of cars at LarsonMotorGroup.com or just go to the lot at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. Larson Motors, real people.
Real
deals.
deals.
Come
All
on,
right,
guys.
Robin.
Yeah, good job.
Basketball. We both were at the game, obviously Monday night, and just Nebraska played one of their best defensive efforts of the year. When you look at how they held Michigan almost 40 points below their season average, 30 what?
Yeah, 30 because they were averaging just over 80 a game. They scored 49. Didn't even get to 50.
It was incredible defense, I thought.
I mean, you couldn't have played much better,
Right.
Especially against that level of competition.
Took Michigan out.
Fortunate part of it was they also paired that with their worst offensive performance of the season and probably of the decade, if not more.
Had
than
they
that.
seen
Ooh,
rim
are you
prote-
saying decade?
It's up there.
Had they seen
46 points, 25% shooting from the field.
they really struggle, Robin, with rim protectors like Maryland had and like what Michigan had. Like
well,
Nebraska-
especially when you're not making threes. I mean, Nebraska was 6 of 28 from 3-point range, and when you pose zero threat on the perimeter outside of one guy, then that allows Michigan with their 2 7-footers to stand in the paint and take away the rim. And so everything Nebraska got in the paint was contested, and they had to shoot through traffic, and everything was hard inside the perimeter. And then they weren't making anything from beyond the arc to bring out Michigan's defense, and it was just a worst case scenario for them offensively, because when you pair just the shots they had to settle for with the cold shooting nights of everyone not named Bryce Williams, it was that's what you get when you shoot 25% and score 46 points in a game, in a Big Ten game.
Sam hit a couple threes, which was good because Sam Hoiberg hadn't shot particularly well this year. That helped a little bit. He had a huge one down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't. And then I saw your question to Fred when they had that last possession. Were they down one?
Down one.
Down one. Bryce gave the ball up to Connor Essegian, who had an open look and missed.
Yep.
Do you want Bryce taking that shot is the question.
So I know people said, why didn't Bryce just take it to the rim for a layup? Well, he had Danny Wolf standing between him and the paint. That's a 7 foot, 250-pound future first-round draft pick standing in between you. And they
Could
also
they have drawn a foul?
Well, they weren't getting the calls. That's the problem. Nebraska shot, 12 free throws in that game? And so they weren't scoring at the rim. You look at their percentages in the paint, it was atrocious. So, in retrospect, yeah, sure. Bryce was the only guy that was able to put the ball in the basket in that game. But he deferred to your best three-point shooter, who's shooting just under 40% from three on the season on a wide open, in rhythm, catch and shoot look. I mean,
how to make it.
Like normally, like if you take away the context of that game, you say, yeah, no brainer. It's when you incorporate the fact that Bryce was the only guy that was giving them any semblance of offense. do you want him deferring in that situation? Would you rather Bryce take a contested mid-range? I don't want him going to the rim against Danny Wolf, but a contested mid-range rather than deferring to his teammate. I mean, in retrospect, sure, if Connor hits it, then you're not even making that question. But he missed it, and it was one of multiple misses in that game, and Bryce had a chance to win it, and he passed it up.
Now, here we are, Robin. 2 home games left, Saturday afternoon and a Sunday afternoon, and then a road trip to Ohio State. But what do you expect for a 1 p.m. Saturday game against Minnesota? These afternoon Saturday games have been a rarity for Nebraska. They get one finally. What type of Minnesota team in terms of motivation level will be coming to Lincoln?
Yeah, they're struggling a bit. They've kind of exceeded expectations a little bit.
6 wins?
Yeah, and they've got some quad 1 wins. I think they have like 4 or 5 quad 1 wins. But they kind of are what they are. And they're a team that Nebraska needs to beat, should beat, and if they don't beat, then all of a sudden the NCAA tournament talk gets a lot more dicey, because this would be what would be considered a bad loss. It's the last bad loss remaining on the schedule for the regular season. At home on a Saturday, the weather's going to cooperate. It's a stripe out game. I mean, the table is set for Nebraska to win this game.
Quad 2 win?
Convincingly. Yes, I believe. I don't know where they are.
It wouldn't be a quad 3, would it?
Well, I don't know where Minnesota's in the net right now. I have to look it up. But losing that game at home, I mean, right now you're at the time of year where people are looking for reasons to keep you out of the tournament. And if you have a blemish, and if you suddenly lose 3 games in a row with your postseason fate on the line, that's incentive for a team or the selection committee to look at another team and say, well, this team's playing its best basketball right now. Maybe they should get the advantage of this Nebraska team that's lost 4 of their last 5. So, I mean, this is a must win in every sense of the world, just because of the fact that the table is set so well for them, the level of competition that they're playing, and the significance it has for their postseason fate. If you win this one, you're still on track. If you lose it, suddenly you're in a bad spot.
Minnesota's 96 in the net.
Okay, so that'd be
Iowa is 67.
Yep.
So what's that quad?
Quad 3.
Oh, that's a
so
3.
If you lose that, that's a quad 3 loss.
So both these games are quad 3 home games.
Which
Ohio State is 35.
Nebraska has 0, 3, or 4 losses. Quad 3 or 4.
So these would be quad 3 wins or losses, and Ohio State would be a quad 1 road win.
So if they go 2-1, let's just say that, because right now Ken Palm has them a 79% favorite over Minnesota, a 73% favorite over Iowa. So assuming they do what they're supposed to do and win those games, you're 2-1. They're 31% at Ohio State. Then I still think you're at 19 wins, and you're in a good position going into Indianapolis.
Probably just win 1 in Indy.
Yeah, I mean, that would help. But I'm just saying, the problem with the Big Ten is that they're the last conference tournament. And so you wonder how much of the field is already set before that tournament's even played. So I always question how much importance the committee puts on the Big Ten in particular, conference tournaments in general, but unless you win it, with the Big Ten being so late and the fact that the field's already set. So
that's a
for
really
Nebraska,
good point.
If they go 2-1, you beat Minnesota, Iowa, then you're in a good position, but you're kind of putting your fate in the hands of the committee. If you go 3-0, you're a lock. You're 100% in the field. You're going to be
what
you're going to get a
seed?
bye. Probably 10.
Yeah. So you might avoid the play-in.
There's still, the bracket matrix.
3-0, they avoid the playoff. They're an at-large.
The bracket matrix, there's not much of a bubble. There really isn't. It's going to take somebody like an Indiana or North Carolina to get hot to jump Nebraska. And that could happen.
But here's the deal. That's all assuming Nebraska does what it's supposed to do. And right now, they've had so many opportunities that they've just missed. You go back to that January stretch. If you just get one more of those, all of a sudden,
USC, Rutgers,
in a great spot. Yeah, Maryland. Just the Iowa, all those games that they should have won and didn't. Now you're in a position where you're entering March, and there's still question. I think they're in a good position. I think that they have a path that seems it's pretty clear to get them to the tournament, but they just can't afford to screw it up. And Saturday, like I said, is a absolute must win. If they lose that game, suddenly you have real questions about their postseason.
Love it.
This would be, you think about the history of Nebraska NCAA basketball tournaments from the 90s on. This, to me, would be one of the more flawed teams that's gotten into a tournament.
Nebraska?
Yes. When you study the knee teams.
Oh, yeah. Just the lack of consistency and the volatile nature of this season.
Volatile.
The highest of the high ceilings and the lowest of the low floors.
Here's the thing, Sean. here, Robin's pointed this out, and I've used it in various capacities. Thank you.
Well,
They have a very low floor. It's a strangely low floor. They can be really bad, but their ceiling's pretty high.
Yeah.
Oregon's kind of their ceiling, where they go into Eugene and just played a perfect game against Dana Altman's pressure defense.
Yeah,
Oregon, Creighton,
Creighton. They
beat
hammered
Illinois.
Creighton. They
beat Ohio State.
Right.
I mean,
they can be really good. So if I were an opposing coach and I got Nebraska, I'd be concerned because they can lock you down. They can play really good defense at times. They took Michigan out of what it wanted to do. Pretty good Michigan team. Michigan's been scoring. That Michigan's not a 49-point a game team at all.
Season low.
Season low, Sean. They can lock you down when they're playing good defense, but they don't always play good defense.
They almost have to be an underdog to play like that. They were an underdog at Oregon. They were an underdog against Creighton. They were an underdog against Michigan. When that team takes on that underdog mentality, they tend to.
There might be that. It might be a little matchup discussion too. Sometimes I think it's a matchup discussion a little bit with Nebraska.
If they do play up and down to their competition, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you see that.
Penn State.
Yeah, Penn State,
Rutgers,
USC, Rutgers.
I shouldn't say. I mean, Rutgers has elite players, but I don't think Nebraska respected them to the level they didn't come. I mean, USC. They never should have lost to USC.
They gave up 85 points to Rutgers.
Volatile is a great word to describe this season. It's been volatile. I mean, strange roller coaster.
But they still control their own path. You win these next 3, you are in the tournament, and it's just a matter what seed you are.
All right, well, stick with Robin. He'll have full coverage Saturday, Nebraska, Minnesota, 1 p.m., Pinnacle Bank Arena. For Abby Barmore, Steve Sipple, Robin Washad, I'm Sean Callahan.